Hello, tea family, and welcome to our live where we're going to be talking about the ultimate tea parties and having tea parties, different things about them. I am looking forward to talking with you all about that today. However, in the meantime, please say hello in the chat or comments, depending on which platform you're joining us. And in addition to that, share what you're drinking for tea tonight. I'm going to go ahead and get started with my tea because the water is ready. We went ahead. I am, however, going to say, if you have a question at any time, please feel free to ask it. We are actually happy to answer your questions at any time, even if it's not one of our big question and answer ones. I am drinking a special tea tonight, and I am drinking it because it is his favorite tea, and that is because it's my son's birthday today. Yay. So, because it's my son's birthday, I am drinking his favorite tea, which is Ancient Green Dragon, which is a vanilla jasmine. There you go. I think you all can see that pretty well. That's what it looks like. I see Kim's here, and she's drinking Highland Dawn. She is not the only one. She is one of a few people that are trying to convince me that we need this one year round, but we'll see. Okay. And then I do have enough in there for my little teapot. And I do like to use the little teapots, especially when we're talking about a tea party. It has an infuser already built into it. Many of the big teapots, even some of these small ones, do. The water was brought to 175 degrees, so it is perfect for Ancient Green Dragon because it's a green tea. My handy-dandy assistant could give me 1 minute on the clock, please. So it is 1 minute for the first brew. A second brew would be 2 minutes, and a third brew would be 3 minutes. So, all right, Diane is also drinking Highland Dawn, but yesterday she was drinking Ancient Green Dragon. All right. Uh-oh, Kim's cup is empty. An empty teacup is never a good thing. Never a good thing. Do you have that 1 minute on the clock, honey? Awesome. Perfect. All right, so like I said, the reason why I'm doing Ancient Green Dragon tonight, first of all, I was in the mood for a green tea, which is nice, but it's because his favorite. So when we would go from tea room to tea room or tea party to tea party, as we'll be talking about tea parties today, he would always try like a vanilla jasmine or a jasmine tea. And I would always try the breakfast blend because, you know, when you go to a new tea room or try a new tea, you pretty much want to go with something that you have a consistent idea of what it should in your mind taste like. And it gives you a good idea of like, oh, okay, they did a nice job with this. Or, I don't know if I'm on that favor. It doesn't mean you won't try another one, but you always have that one that you like to start with just to try it. All right, and there is our timer. You know what I do need? No. I need a little thing to put our infuser in. All right. So it's okay to let it drip for a second, which is what we're going to do here. But that is one of those things. I see Kim has swapped to double spring leap tea. Man, you have made that last because that is a new leap year tea. So you are definitely making that one last. Okay. And then it's just a nice, delightful little pour. I'll put my teapot there. I have to be careful. Everything is pretty much balanced over here. So, okay. Well, there you are. And you see that nice light green color. Delicious. Smelling it. I already know. All right. So we are going to get started with the diving into how to host a tea party. And we want it to be, you know, obviously delicious, enjoyable. But, you know, most tea parties have a meaning behind them. And so you want to have this magical moment that's meaningful as well. So we are going to get started. I love it. Kim said, I love white tea. Hoarder genes runs deep in my family. I understand. I do understand. White tea. I do know that Kim also was a big fan of our Aloha Breeze, which is another one of our white teas. Why don't we have more white tea? White tea to get the higher quality white tea that I really love, it's just more expensive. So I don't have it as one of our standard everyday teas. It is kind of going to be an event only, or, the leap year tea, the double spring leap is only available right around leap year every 4 years. And we do that just because it is pretty cost prohibitive for white tea to get the right quality of white tea, and for us to be able to certify organic, non-GMO. And like I said, we usually like to do those small family co-op farms. And so the ones that have been in the families for generations, and they've been doing this the same way, they're not adding chemicals, they're not adding anything else. Those are really hard to find. So yeah, that's why. But go ahead, take a nice sip, everybody. We'll all take a sip together, and then we're going to get started. I should put this back this way, just because you can see the little flower in the end. So I want to talk first about the different types of tea parties. So let's start with the fun in that, because the first thing you need to do, you're like, yes, I want to have a tea party. That's awesome. What kind of tea party do you want to host? Because there really are so many fun and wonderful styles. Each have its own flavor, pun intended on that one. I've hung out with too many punny people today. So if you're doing like an afternoon tea, it's going to be light, it's going to be elegant. It's typically served between 2 and 4 p.m. Think scones and finger sandwiches and little pastries. This is the most traditional in our minds. However, there's also high tea, which is heartier, typically served after work, so a little later in the evening. It's going to have more savory items like meats and quiches and pies. And originally, high tea was the tea for workers coming home. And so then it's more dinner than a dainty tea. Another one that is really, really popular are kind of like the whimsical garden parties that are like a whimsical garden tea party. Think Alice in Wonderland, kind of outdoor fairy vibes, flower crowns, color everywhere. This is very popular in the spring and the summer because people can then be outside if you live in a cold climate like we have here. I mean, obviously, it is good to go if you're in southern Florida. You could have it at any point in time. But it's traditionally something outside, especially. Then there's the more modern brunch tea hybrid. This is more like what you'll see for birthdays or showers, where you're kind of combining tea with some brunch classics like avocado toast or mini waffles or frittatas. Those are very, very popular kinds of teas because a lot of people, it's not so early in the day. If they want to have an earlier morning, they're going to have that brunch, they're going to do that kind of a brunch tea, versus if they're doing an early afternoon, they're thinking more afternoon tea. So those kind of things have impact when you want to have it, also where you want to have it, if you're having it outside in kind of that garden setting. But then there are something else to consider about a type of tea is, do you want to have like kind of a cultural theme to it? Japanese tea ceremony, Moroccan mint tea lounge kind of vibe, an Indian chai social kind of a thing. These can be really super immersive and so much fun, especially if you pick something that is from a culture that not everybody is completely grounded in, because there's just so much you can learn about the cultures and how they drink their tea and the different kinds of tea and the different kinds of teapots and different things like that. So, and here's my little pro tip. We have consulted and we do consulting work for tea parties. We've also helped put on tea parties for people. And one of the things that I always want to tell people is when they sit down for that consult and we're going to kind of throw together what teas do they want and what foods, is to tailor the tea party for their personality. There's no one right way or no one wrong way to do it, but do what's comfortable for you. Now, if you do not like the outdoors and you do not like the idea of having to be either in the hot sun or the bugs or just bringing everything out and back, and that's not what you want. You want to be more focused on like food and kind of that interaction, or then don't do the garden whimsical tea party. Do a more traditional afternoon tea. You could do a morning tea. It doesn't. You could still do an afternoon tea in the morning time frame. But if that's more what you want, you really want to do that 3 tiers, and you want to have the savories on the bottom, like the finger sandwiches, or the savories on the bottom, and then you want to have the scones and the clotted cream and all the jams and jellies and preserves and everything on that middle layer, and then like little dessert chocolates and macarons and different things like that on the top. Then have that party if that's what you want to do. There's no one right way, no one wrong way. Suit your personality, because you'll be more comfortable, and when you're more comfortable, your guests are going to be much more comfortable. Okay, my second thing that I would talk about when people want to plan a tea party is choosing the right teas. Now, we're going to talk tea, obviously. And yes, I'm obviously going to ask them questions about, what kinds of teas they like and don't like. Food allergies. Typically, I have one person who is allergic to ginger, right? And I know she's allergic to ginger. So I wouldn't recommend Nautical Twilight, which is a ginger hibiscus tea. So think about things like that and try and have a variety of teas, or some different ones that don't have potentially ingredients in there that one of your guests would be allergic to. And definitely loose leaf. Like, that's one of the reasons why we do loose leaf, because the flavors are so better. But pair the teas to kind of the vibe or the atmosphere of your party. If you're having that whimsical tea party, then sure, you're gonna have maybe have a black tea in there, but strive more for like the fruity blends. Like we have Appealing in the fall, but you could have Harmony in the spring, or you could do the Summer Kiss for that peach green tea. Those fruity blends in the summer. The other thing is, I always do say, have a caffeine-free option. There are a lot of people. One of the reasons why we've been expanding our caffeine-free line so much is we're running into more and more and more people who don't want any caffeine at all. And for that reason, we are there for going and creating more teas for them so that they have some variety. So I do urge you to have one of those. But think about the fruity kind of like blends for that kind of whimsical tea party. If you are having kind of the brunch tea, this is where you're going to want to go with a few more of the bold black teas like Serene Sunrise, or this is one where Highland Dawn would be perfect, or Morning Irish, because people are going to want a little more caffeine in the morning. They're great for morning events, or even the traditional teas in the afternoon, the afternoon tea. Most are going to have a black tea for that. If you're going to have like a more evening tea, like a high tea, where it's kind of like more of that hearty meal plus the tea, you could have some black teas, but I would be going more of our herbal options, avoiding the caffeine, lower caffeine, the green teas, definitely things like that. Floral teas really benefit from that elegant, lighthearted energy. Iced or cold brew teas for summer outdoor brunch is always good. And if you've ever Googled the best loose leaf teas for parties, it's always interesting to see what Google comes up with, because sometimes Google and I completely disagree on what we think are the best ones. But it's because Google's going to kind of take what's the most popular, not necessarily what's the best fit. It's one of those things when people try and go to AI, well, I'll just chat GPT, or I'll just AI that. Okay, but then you're working on what a computer thinks is the best blend, as opposed to what you may want, or the kind of flavorings that you may want. Okay, number 3, when planning a tea party, I want to say, think about food pairings. And I want to urge you to do something that I do here on the lives, and that is having some traditional things, but maybe something that's unusual. You don't have to just stick to the cucumber sandwiches, although I do love cucumbers and they are classic. But with traditional tea pairings, you've got the black tea and the scones with the clotted cream and the jam, right? But you could do green tea with like cucumber or egg salad sandwiches. You could do a chai with some spiced shortbread or almond biscotti. Earl Grey blends really well with lemon cakes or lavender cookies or something like that. And those are great. And those are the ones that people are going to want because in their mind, that's the traditional way of going. But sneak a little something special in there. Sneak a little something unusual in there. For like the Ancient Green Dragon, the vanilla jasmine green tea, go with like a brie and honey crostini. And I would go with a goat's milk and honey crostini. For like a green mint, where you get kind of the green tea and the mint, or even an evening mint where you get the herbal blends and stuff. I would put that with like a dark chocolate ganache tart, or even just some dark chocolate, just a little dark chocolate to finish it off. If it's fall and I'm going to do something in the fall when we have a peeling, I'm going to definitely want some extra sharp cheddar cheese. Although in the house, most of the time we have extra sharp cheddar cheese, but I'm going to go with like a sharp cheddar or an aged cheddar with apple pan pies or spicy black tea with kind of a savory herb quiche. Citrus teas, mini fish tacos or arugula salad. So the bite and the pepperiness of the arugula salad and the mildness of the fish tacos are really going to bring out a lot of those citrus notes. But they're a surprising way to do it, not a traditional way to do it. So the other thing that I have to say that people enjoy doing, and my handy dandy assistant does say a lot when we're at events, is we'll typically have 3 or 4 different teas for people to try, right? And so he's like, have a flight, because people understand, like, they'll get a flight of wines or a flight of beers or a flight of coffees even. I don't know if you've ever had that. But you can also get a flight of teas. And the idea is you're going to have 3 to 4 different teas, and it's just a tiny little bit of the tea, a few sips, and like a 1 or a 2 bite food to kind of match. So it's very much a small tasting kind of thing. And then when you do that, it's so much fun because people get to try different teas. And then they've tried them, then they go and get their cup and then get a cup of what they really, really enjoy the most. Now, the cool thing about that is people get to try new teas, but they can still settle for having their regular tea. The other thing that I would urge you is go light to dark. So white teas first. Absolutely start with your white teas, very delicate. And then I would go with your green teas, and I would talk about your straight green tea blends. Then I would go with your green teas with other additives in it, like some of the citrus notes or the fruity ones or things like that. Then I would build, if you had an oolong, because remember an oolong is about halfway between a green tea and a black tea, if you had any oolongs. After that is when I would go to the black teas. It's going to be the boldest, it's going to be the most robust, and it can overwhelm in your palate the flavors for the other ones. So you always go light to dark. You start with your most delicate tea to go to your heartiest and most robust tea. But I encourage you to try that at some point, even if it's just you and you're not having a formalized tea party, you're just having some friends over. You're like, hey, we're going to come over and we're going to have a get together and we're just going to enjoy some teas. So another thing to think of when you're creating your tea party is the ambiance and your tablescape and your experience. So this is where so much of the magic happens. I will tell you, you don't need to spend a lot of money to make it really kind of a magical atmosphere. Just a few touches are going to go a long, long way. Candles, string lights, some flowers in a teapot, maybe some mismatched vintage teacups, maybe place cards with the names of the tea blends, different things like that. Just going to really elevate it. You could even do some fairy lights strewn on the table that are battery operated. Those kinds of things really elevate the experience, and you can make it more whimsical for your garden party, or much more, sleek and modern for that brunch. But just those few little things will really create the atmosphere that you're looking for. Don't be afraid to do like a little sachet or a take home for something on that if you're having it for a special event. And encourage everybody who's there to take pictures. And then if you do have a party there, I encourage you, if you're using our teas, to go ahead and tag us in it, so we can share the love and look at the spreads. I love when people kind of tablescape their teas. A friend of ours, Stephanie, loves to do that. She creates these amazing pictures, and I have, with her permission, stolen a couple to even put on our social media posts, because she just does a great job of staging everything. And I'm like, oh, that looks so great. It looks better than I would have done it. But she's really good at that. And so have them take pictures and share, and then kind of share them with you so you can kind of see everybody's different perspectives. It's a really fun to look through afterwards. Number 5. So when you're thinking about your tea party, I want you to think about, what do you want for interaction versus live engagement versus entertainment, those sort of things. So sometimes people like to play games. So for instance, if it's a focus on the food pairings and tea, and you're going to kind of do something like that, what's the tea etiquette going to be like? Are you playing a game because you're serving tea at a bridal shower? This is the what you're going to be thinking about. Like, what do you want to do while you're there? What kind of music is going to fit that vibe, and different things like that. Those are things to think about now and enjoy while you're there. I always say, have a couple of extra in your pocket, because sometimes you'll plan 3 things, right? You're like, we're only going to be here a couple hours. People are going to want to come in and they're going to socialize. Then we'll sit down and we'll do the teas and we'll do this. Great. Have that kind of rough guesstimate. But sometimes you play a game, and people play a game quick, like super quick. And then sometimes they play a game and it takes them way longer than you had planned. So I always do say, have a couple of extra things ready for entertainment, or just have some more music kind of going. That way you can kind of fill that time and make it seem like it's paced pretty well, but not necessarily seem rushed or super slow. Kind of like, so have stuff ready to go, or different things to talk about, or kind of some questions or anything like that. Because remember, tea is about connecting with people. It's about building community. It's about enjoying that sip and relaxing. So it's okay to let the conversation flow. And if people are having a good time, maybe you only play 2 of the games that you planned for, because everybody's having a really good time. They're connecting, they're building that community, and they're just enjoying the tea. That's okay. That's okay. I always think of tea as a very comforting thing, and it's even better when I'm sharing with friends, which is one of the reasons why I do enjoy going live on Sundays. So, anybody have any questions about the tea parties, or the different ways of planning them, or things to consider when you're planning your next tea party? Go ahead, put them in the chat or the comments, and I'm going to take another sip. Give you a second to do that. I don't see anything coming up, but that's okay. Next week, we are going to be doing a deep dive on my favorite, Serene Sunrise. And we are going to have a very interesting surprise. I will tell you all, since you're watching while I'm waiting for any questions to come up, that I will be doing a very special giveaway. So feel free to stay tuned for that, because it will be a very important day in a couple ways. But more on that next week, and is one of the reasons why we will be doing Serene Sunrise. I've been putting it off for a while, but it's typically number 1 or number 2. So at events, Ruby Chai and Serene Sunrise battle it out for first place every time. Even when they're not what's offered as the free sample, they battle it out every single time. It's pretty funny. We like to watch like who won this time. And we will be at an event that weekend, next weekend. So we will be able to tell you who won that weekend. So, okay. All right, I see we've got more Highland Dawn comments coming in.
Yes. I just don't hear anything about it.
Yeah, that's okay. All right, so that's what we'll be doing next week. I will say that we will be having a very special giveaway, and it might even be surprising what it is. So thanks for joining me. I didn't see any questions pop up, but if you have a question in the meantime, just reach out. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful week. And I enjoyed spending time talking about tea parties with you today. Have a good one.
Bye.